Welcome back to the PSN Command Now. Also, the Protest Sports Network with Song and Zach. Back with a video if I get over to God, my God's been about doors and pay way for people in the world and parents. Today's video, hear about the Washington Commanders if I get too far into it. I forgot what this was, but shout out to a subscriber I ran to her at my job today. And like, yeah, you made the Commanders video, right? You tap. I was like, yeah, it was good. Shout out to you. If I get too far into a quick verse of the day, this is from Romans chapter 5, verse 3 through 4 says as follows. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. So whenever you suffer, man, just take glory, man. Glory to God, man. That suffering, that tough time you're going through will allow you to become stronger. Because you persevere through your hardship. Amen. Amen. So we're gonna react to Daronte Jones's opening press conference, also David Blough's. I'm not gonna do the Dan Quinn joint. Dan just rapping about Dan stuff. So he the head coach. We don't gotta watch a head coach presser. We watch 100 press conferences of DQ already, but we'll take the tweets from John Kime to react to Dan Quinn's presser today. But let's talk Daronte Jones first. We'll see what he said, and then we'll react to it.
Good afternoon. Yes, sir.
Okay. John Kine from ESPN. You've had a journey along the way here. How did you prepare as you're going along the way, as you advance in your career, to put yourself in this kind of a spot?
Y'all hear it?
Just being around some of the talented coaches, great minds that I've been a part of growing up, from Marvin Lewis to Vance Joseph, Mike Zimmer, Lou Anaromo, and even as recently as Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores.
Y'all hear the audio?
They've prepared me, and being around them, learn lessons, how to lead, how to structure their side of the ball, how to implement certain learning techniques, and finding out about the culture amongst the guys have helped guide me to where I am today.
You mentioned the names that you've coached with. How did they shape your defensive philosophy, and what is it that you want to bring here?
Versatility, adaptability, using our players' strengths to the best of their ability, maximizing what they do, being a feature of that, and then minimizing the things that they don't do well. And each coach has provided a certain way of highlighting whoever that athlete may be and whatever that strength may be that allow them to get to their highest level. And so my ability and learning from those guys in terms of how to tap into each individual player, and each individual player is different. But it all starts with the relationships. And the biggest thing that I've gotten is in this profession is how to attack and relate to players and connect with those guys. And that starts with the relationships aspect of it. And what does that mean? That starts with trust.
Hi, Nikki Jeffala with The Athletic. As you've worked with different coordinators, different players, are there things you've kind of picked up along the way where you're like, if I ever get my shot at calling a defense, this is what I want to do. I want to do this differently. I want to keep this. Have there been any small things that you're like, if I get my chance, I want to implement this?
Sure. You naturally want to be multiple because I've been around so many different schemes. I think that's an advantage of mine. There aren't too many schemes that I have not been a part of. There's, everyone comes from some type of tree. And so because of that, I've been able to answer your question, be able to implement various things from each scheme that I like and I want to pull from. So whether it's the Zimmer scheme, hey, I like this on third down, I like the mug looks there, or if it's Flores and the versatility and how we can use one person in multiple ways based off of their strengths, that's what you want to pull from.
And how much did your year at LSU kind of shape you in particular?
It was great lessons at LSU. Having the ability to lead a staff. I think the defensive staff at that time was 16 on defense alone. And so that's a large staff that you have to organize and be structured in a way that you're very efficient in how you meet and how you prepare day to day and how you get the players prepared. And so with that, also with 16 different personalities, and you're dealing with grown men, and everyone's different, and everyone has different backgrounds, different experiences that they can bring. You wanted to make it a collaborative effort, right? And include everyone. And you want guys that can contribute, guys that have high character, guys that are also teachers and they can communicate in their own light. And so being at LSU, learning how to deal with different personalities, not only from the player perspective, because that's been, you get used to that at various levels, but in terms of at that level in the SEC and going into SEC competition and what that means was very instrumental for me. Yes.
Hey, Coach David Aldridge with The Athletic. Welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
You have all kinds of, you mentioned different experiences. I just wonder if you have a sense of 3-4 or 4-3 just at the jump, just off the outset for this group.
Multiple. I think 3-4, 4-3, they're just numbers, still 7-man spacing. So I always say it's not how they line up, it's how they wind up. And so you can create that number system in numerous ways.
With regard specifically to Frankie Louvu, they used him in different ways for each of the first 2 seasons. I wonder what you think his best utilization of his talent and skill set would be.
Love Frankie Louvu. Watch him on tape. He's a guy that before I even got here that we would watch and put on tape in our meeting room. I love his athleticism. He's best going downhill, getting them matched up on running backs. That's always a key. You're going to hear that a lot in terms of matchability and putting guys in advantageous positions. He's best when he can go downhill, use his athleticism to win on edges, use his speed, so time, distance, and space to encounter those matchups. And you want to put him in that situation where he's matched up on a running back. And I think running backs are one of the guys on offense that gets the least amount of reps and protections.
Hey, Coach. Liam Griffin with the Washington Times. Coach Quinn had talked about how things change over the last 5 to 10 years. A defense that was effective 10 years ago, maybe not be as effective now. What have you seen change in defensive trends across the league since you got to the NFL about 10 years ago?
The coverages. It's almost like things come back full circle. So at that time, years ago, people were leaving the spot drop schematics and they were going more match coverages. So match 3 quarters and things of that nature. And now you're starting to see a trend coming back full circle to where schemes are starting to become more vision-based, and especially on early down. So you see that trend starting to happen. You see guys going more shell coverage, where at one point it was really middle field closed, just in terms of structurally. And so there's always things that you can pull from 10 years ago that is still prevalent to today in terms of the physicality and the fundamentals and the techniques. That will never change no matter what year that is. So you want to emphasize that and lean on that. And I think that's where defenses can continue to grow. If you watch the last couple of years of the Super Bowl, it's come down to fundamentals and techniques and winning the line of scrimmage. So that will never change, in my opinion.
And why was Washington the right fit? What was it about this coaching staff or this building or this locker room, these players that appealed to you?
Well, that's a loaded question. I mean, it's again, I grew up in the area. I grew up, wearing the burgundy and supporting the Washington organization. I went to elementary school, middle school, literally right across the street from where the stadium is in Palmer Park, Maryland. I went to Kenmore Middle School and I went to Matthew Henson Elementary. So
he is from the area. Oh, he definitely from the area. Shout out to Daronte Jones. I love the fact that he said he loved Frankie Lou. He loved the fact that he comes downhill. I love the fact that he said he's a multiple scheme guy. You can't put him in a box because he's learned from so many other different schemes. This is a very interesting press conference from Daronte. I'm interested to learn more about him. So let's continue to watch.
Growing up a diehard fan, the family's backing it. So when the opportunity came, I thought it was a win-win situation. I wanted to put my best foot forward. And then when you talk about the people in the building, such as Dan Quinn, such as Adam Peters, great ownership with Josh Harris and the crew. I want to say thank you for that, by the way. I didn't mean to say that. I want to start off just by thanking the ownership, Josh Harris, thanking Dan Quinn, thanking Adam Peters for the opportunity that they've afforded me. But when you're around certain people and you see the alignment of the organization, ownership, management, head coach, quarterback, it's a win-win for not only the DMV, but a win-win for me as well. Thank you.
Coach John Duran with WUSA. You mentioned wanting to maximize all your players and be versatile. You mentioned Frankie Louvu as well. Any other guys that you've watched that you can't wait to get on the field with here?
Yeah, I mean, I had a chance to speak with quite a few players already, and they're all excited to get going, just as I am. But I think the team is filled with some versatility players, and I think they can be used in several ways. You look at a Samerstill who was very versatile coming out of college, and the things that he was able to accomplish at the University of Michigan, not only winning a championship, but the way he done it, right, and how he led those guys there. When you talk to the guys from that championship team, everyone points to him as being the leader. You look at Quan Martin, who I know evaluating him coming out, we were like, hey, is he a safety? Is he a nickel? Is he a corner? That's another guy that has versatility, And then I think when you look at Will Harris and how he's able to move in the line of scrimmage, cover tight ends on the deep halves. You look at a Jordan McGee, another guy who's on the ball, off the ball. The list goes on and on. You look at Javon Kinlaw, who can play all different levels up front. And so the talent is there. The skill set is there. It's our job with the staff to maximize those skill talent.
So he did his research before he got here. So how Mikey plays outside and inside, what he did at Michigan. He talked about how he was scouting Quan Martin when he came out of Illinois. Once again, another guy that likes Quan Martin. I think he's going to get a chance to be an impactful player here in DC. I wouldn't count Quan Martin as a guy that can still play and still give you some good quality snaps. I won't count him out anymore. I was kind of counting him out. I thought Joe Wicks was still be here. So, Dan Quinn will call plays. So I didn't know we were going to bring in a brand new guy. So, it's just going to be interesting. I like the way you talked about Jordan McGee as well. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting to see how he puts his guy in position.
And I'm excited to work with the staff that we have. There's going to be a lot of collaborative effort going forward, and the communication, and we get a chance to teach, right? Talk about the foundation from ground up and trying to connect to these players and find out how they learn. And I think that's the biggest thing going forward. To be able to utilize the versatility, you got to figure out how do they learn. We all, as human beings, we learn differently, right? And so each player is going to fall into one of the 4 categories of learning styles. And it's our responsibility to figure out if they're visual, auditory, read and write, or if it's kinesthetic learners. And that's our job to pull that out of them. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Coach David Harrison.
I know he brought a different learning styles too.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I got more than a few questions I could ask you. Let's start here. How much, obviously you've done a lot of homework and you've talked to some guys like you mentioned. How much do you want to have? How much of the plan for each individual guy do you want to have in place before you meet them? And then how much obviously is going to be dictated by getting to know them further?
I think it's a balance, so coming in already, I've had a chance to watch the tape on just about everyone here in the building on the team. I've developed, and here's the teaching background. I've developed an IEP for each player, an individualized education program, but just for football. In a way that these are the things that I see on tape that they do well.
Yeah, they're making IEPs? Interesting.
Things they can improve in. How can we as a staff assist them in that improvement? And then when you meet that player and that player comes here and you start to get to know that guy, you may have to tweak it a little bit in terms of, again, their learning style. All right. Is it more of walkthrough? Is it more film-based? Is it more auditory? So then we can tweak it, but at least the overall 30,000-foot view plan of how to improve that individual player has already been assessed.
And as you go through these players, obviously you've got 1 year, 2 year, even sometimes more of NFL tape on these guys, but sometimes what they were able to do in college is different than what they've been asked to do in the NFL. Will you go back to that on your own and maybe try to look at some of those things that you can reintroduce to their skill set in the NFL, or do you kind of let them maybe tell you, hey, these are some things I've done before that I haven't been able to do here that I would like to do moving forward?
Well, a little bit of both. Every player sees themselves differently than we as coaches and you as media may see them, right? And so, as rightfully so. But that getting to know that player first starts with, I want to go back to me finding out what's their why, how they're motivated. Is it external motivation or internal motivations? That opens the lines of effective communication. And then when those lines of effective communication are open, then now we can kind of tap into what you can and cannot do based off of your strengths, and then have an open dialogue of, this is what I see that you do well. These are these are areas I think you can improve in. How do you see that? And then come to a kind of an agreement, and then move forward from that point on. But I think it's definitely it's a constant open lines of communication. You got to have communication. You don't want any void. Negativity kind of fills the void when it's empty, right? So we want to continue to have that effective line of communication, both player and coach, and that way we can help them grow as individuals. But you got to know the person before you know the player. Yeah.
Coach, good afternoon. Chad Ricardo with Fox 5. With all of your resume and with all of your experience that you bring here to the table.
Like he said, you gotta get to know the person before you get to know the player. Once you had that really strong connection with the player as a person, you can figure out what they makes him tick as a player. So, I love everything he's saying right now. I'm very impressed with him. He's the exact opposite of Joey Jr. Joey brought energy. But Daronte bringing facts and really bringing a nice analytical response. A guy from the DMV, he's from the hood, from Capitol Heights. I thought he'd bring a little more rah-rah type stuff, but he's coming with analytical stuff, and he's getting very teacher-like, which I think is very interesting. It's good too.
What is the biggest thing about you yourself that's going to allow for you to impact not only this defense, but this organization?
Relationships. I think one of my strengths is the ability to connect to people. I've taught at every different level. I've coached at every different level, from Division I, Division II, Division III, 1AA, high school. I've taught high school, coached in the CFL, and now in the NFL. And what you come to find out is when you've been on so many different levels, you come across so many different people, right? And they come from all different backgrounds of life, and you got to find a way to meet them where they are. That connection allows the relationship to grow, that it can allow the growth of that person to get to the highest levels, and they can maximize their abilities. And so I intend to get to know these players as I've already done so far on a personal level, talk about their wives and their kids and so forth. But that's my strength. It's the ability to connect and build relationships and to teach. And then everything else shows up on the tape.
Daronte, Scott Abraham, ABC7, welcome back home.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm sure it's very exciting. Fans love buzzwords, right? So they probably want to know, what will a Washington-led defense by Daronte Jones look like and feel like?
Buzzwords. I'm not going to say, all the typical coaching buzzwords, but I will say that when you turn on the tape, joy would be one. All right, that would be the number one thing, that if you turn on the tape or you're watching TV from wherever you may be watching from, to see the joy that these players have when they step on the field, the joy that they have when they're playing with one another, the camaraderie. That's the number one thing that we want to have on the defense. I think when you see joy out there, guys are playing selflessness, and you're seeing the team defense, and you're seeing guys who they don't care who makes the play, as long as someone makes the play, and they're willing to take on a double team or take this pick so that you can kind of clear up. And they're going to learn that the word sacrifice, although it has a negative connotation, will be seen in a different light, meaning it's not what am I willing to give up, it's what I'm willing to do for. And having that mindset amongst the whole team.
Very biblical too. That's very biblical too. I like that.
Will provide that joy. But outside of the joy, you want to see, guys that are, constantly attacking the football, creating takeaways. You want to see guys playing with some type of some high IQ, some type of intelligence out there, and communicating. So, but the joy is the number one thing that you want to see. I'm not going to use any other buzzwords that, trigger things, but joy will be the collective unit.
You said something earlier that stood out to me. You said it starts with trust.
Yes.
So how do you earn the trust of your players with them buying into what you're coaching?
Well, for them to buy into what I'm coaching, they have to, one, buy into who I am as a person, and that I genuinely have their best interest at heart. And how do they do that? Is for me getting to know the person and not the player. That's me getting to know, again, their upbringing, how they got to where they are, the people that matter to them in life. That's me asking them about hey, how's your mom? Or how's your loved one? Or how's your child? How do they do in that basketball game? And you start to develop that relationship. And when you develop that relationship, they realize that, you know what? He cares more than just if I make this play or not. He's really invested in me. And so because he's invested in me, I can now become invested in him and what he's teaching and buying in. Because when you're dealing with especially football players or just any athlete or people in general, for me to listen to you, I have to be invested in you, right? And there's no connection there with how hard is how willing am I to be where I need to be and do what I have to do if I don't feel like you really have my best interest at heart. And so just starting, I think that's what the offseason is about. It's a great opportunity to, them to get to know me get to know them. And I think being around Coach Quinn, you can get a sense of that he's a people's person. He's about relationships, the players that he's brought in this building and the culture that he has. I'm just reliving. I'm just going through and fulfilling the vision that he's already set forth. That's all. I'm just moving to continue to move the needle that way because he's already had the foundation of that in this building and just the guys that I've met and just watching him interact with people. Yeah.
Hey, Daronte, congrats on the new job and welcome back to DC. JP Finley with NBC4. You've talked about wanting to be multiple and all your different stops in your coaching journey, but the last stop in Minnesota was with an ultra aggressive scheme in Brian Flores. How much of that do you want to bring to Washington?
Well, it's about what we do well. If we have the players and their skill sets, some of the skill sets are to be aggressive. By nature, I'm an aggressive person by nature, just in the background. And not only with Brian Flores, his aggressiveness looks a little bit different than what it may have been in the past. But really, if you think about it, there aren't many differences between him and Mike Zimmer in terms of the aggression. There's just, Zim was more third down aggression. With Flo, it's more first, second, and third down aggression, right? And it just looks differently. Zim was more mug looks, whereas Flo is more all offsets. But there will be some incorporation of all that. I don't want to get too much in the X's and O's, but we will try to dictate the terms and change the math. There's a buzzword for you. But we will use that just with our adaptability and versatile approach. But I think the way the players help shape that. So it's all about players first and scheme second. And so based off what our players can do, we will do. If players can't do that, then we will do and put them in situations where they can be at their best. And so, yes, by nature, I'm an aggressive person. By nature, we want to become more aggressive in some way, shape, or form. Is that pressures? Or is that just being more of attacking? Is that being more technique and fundamentals, attacking blocks, defeating blocks, tackling, and just doing the routine things routinely? That can also be seen as being aggressive as well, when you're just playing technique. And so it's based off of what we have player-wise.
And then Dan Quinn mentioned that before you guys started talking about the roster, he asked you to just watch everything.
Yes.
When you watched this defense from last year, what would you describe as the strengths?
Young and athletic. I would say young and athletic. I know there's some older pieces there, but for the most part, especially the guys that we have in our system here, you look at the back end we're talking about Sam Steele, Trey Amos, Quan Martin, Will Harris. Those guys are athletic. Then you throw in a Reeves in there as well, who provides some versatility. And Owen's also another guy who's versatile. You look at McGee, you look at Luvu, you look at Madrano. Those guys are athletic and they're young. And up front, you have some savvy vets up there, and then you have Newton, who's also a young player who has
okay. So Johnny,
the interior D line, and so when you look at that, the first thing that jumps off the tape is these guys can run and hit, and so you definitely want to use that to where guys are going forward versus going backwards. Yeah.
Hey, Daronte, Mitch Tischler with Monumental Sports. As you've looked at kind of the defense from last year and the players that are coming back over, have you started talking with Adam Peters, Dan Quinn about the types of players that you want to bring in? I guess what are some of those characteristics that you look for?
One, tough, physical, versatility. We talked about that. And just with anything, our ability as a staff, our players' ability to be adaptable and whatever that may looks like. Because when you're coming in and you may have a different vision on a certain player, or you view versatility more than someone who is a first and second down Mike linebacker, just all parties being versatile and being adaptable in that. And I think being on the same page, and I have a great feel and sense that even in the hiring process, when we were talking about position profiles, that their vision, the vision that we have as a collective unit, and the vision that we're having as a staff, is on board with the same thing. So we're aligned that way. Yeah.
Hey, Daronte, Ben Standiga with Last Man Standing in the Team 980. When you go in for an interview, typically you highlight some of your stronger points. What was it like when you had a conversation about 31-0?
We didn't discuss the 31-0. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. But I will say it was just about, it's just, again, it's about the joy. It's about the game. Any given Sunday, that was a very tough team to prepare for. With Terry coming back that game, you had Jaden Daniels, provide a lot of issues, or it's a lot of issues that the offense can provide. And I'm looking forward to being a part of it this year. And, me and David, we have some history together when we were at Minnesota at the same time together. And so it'll be fun. It'll be fun to kind of just merge all this together, and so that we can also have a successful year in 2026.
And you mentioned some of the youth on this team. Also, you had older guys like Bobby Wagner and Von Miller who are free agents. How do you kind of envision, like, obviously, I think in general, this team's got to get younger. So how do you view from your perspective of, hey, we need some experienced guys, but we also have to have more athleticism, speed, things like that?
I think you have to have a little bit of both. I think you can't go too far on either end of the spectrum. So, you have to have some veterans to kind of balance those things out and help those guys come along, because those veterans can provide knowledge various ways, right? It's not just on the field. It could be off the field. It could be, how do I study? How do I watch film? How do I become a pro? And so having veterans around, I think is a great piece, and it's a great thing. It's all speeds up the development of young players. Yeah.
Hey there, Coach Jones. My name is Candy Waller from Bowie TV.
Hi, Candy.
So welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
So I'm kind of pulling on the thread of Nikki's question. As an HBCU graduate and having coached on the HBCU level, how has that shaped who you are today?
It's the foundation of who I am today. Having to attend and graduate from Morgan State University, and then getting my first coordinator experience at Bowie State University. So as you can see, the foundation of who I am and why relationships are so important to me is because those players that you come in contact with, either coaching or playing with, it's special, and there's a bond that's there. And so coming to Morgan State, it's not about the glitz and the glamour in terms of what some PWIs may be about, but you find a family atmosphere. I learned that, you miss a class, that coach is going to be on you, like, why you missed this class. And, that means something. And that helped build who I am today in my character, because now I understand that, he cared. Those coaches that coached me at Morgan State, they cared for me, and they cared about my development, not just as a football player, but as a person, as a man, as a father, as a husband. They cared about that development. And I think that's what the HBCUs do. They help bridge that gap. They help provide the experiences of, yes, you're not alone as you continue to grow and as you continue your journey post high school. And you learn a lot of different things going through those processes.
And when you take a look at how the NFL continues to evolve from the offensive perspective, what makes these NFL offenses so hard to defend, the top offenses?
Well, it's their blend. First of all, the quarterback play, right? It's a quarterback-driven league. And what you're starting to see is the blend from, let's say, college football coming into the NFL, and it has been for a while. You're seeing less under center, two back, downhill runs. You're seeing more spread, open, shotgun. You're seeing the influence, the QB run game. You're seeing that influence from college football. And what's happening is, unfortunately, there's a large population of coaches in the NFL that hasn't been in college football in years, right? And the game is changing a little bit. And so now you're starting to visit in clinic with college coaches and say, hey, how do you stop this? What have you guys done with this particular scheme? And you see the crossover between NFL and college. the game is becoming more dynamic. Everyone wants the points on the board. They're spreading it out. Defensively, we like to try to take advantage of the open and spread looks, hence the aggressiveness over there that he talked about earlier. But that's where the game is changing. It's more passing. It's a passing league. It was good to kind of see a running back get the MVP in the Super Bowl. That's kind of been unheard of lately. It's been more quarterback driven and more ball in the air type of offenses.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Coach. Welcome back to the DMV home again.
Yes.
Donna Hopkins, Pro Football Plus. We can always learn new things about ourselves. With all of your experiences that you've had, in coaching, what have you learned most about yourself as you embark on this new opportunity?
Perseverance. The journey wasn't a typical journey. 47 years old. This is my 26th year coaching, 16 in college, and my 10th year in the league. But perseverance, not giving up, continue to move forward, push forward, be resilient, face adversity and success in the same light, I would say. It's different. If you think back to, when I was 26 years old, or really 23 years old, sleeping in the car at 23 is different than sleeping in the car at 33, which I experienced both of those to try to strive to be where I am today. So perseverance and then trusting in God.
With your
Dang, my man been pushing adversity. I stepped in the car, bro. He been pushing adversity, bro. I respect that about a man who faced that much adversity. Yeah, it's still pushing.
defensive staff, what is the message that you want to deliver to them as you all bond together as a unit?
Definitely talked about being a collaborative, having a collaborative input. We don't care where good ideas come from. Meeting the staff, you can feel it already, the juice, building the strong dynamics to be able to have some creativity in the room, some dialogue in the room. Definitely have to have that, open lines of communication. But you get a sense of there's a lack of ego in the room, which is great. You can see that we have a staff of guys that can be at their best in the darkest of moments, which you look for. But you're seeing teachers and you're seeing communicators, you're seeing a certain sense of humility in there, and you see their character really come to light. And I think with all that, that's a great environment where things can grow, and we can bring this all, and we can make it all come to life in terms of our vision that we have amongst the defense and for the organization as a whole under Coach Quinn.
Coach, welcome back home.
Thank
Moises
you.
Linares, Telemundo 44 and NBC4 here in DC. Congratulations on this opportunity. Can you talk about what your family has told you now that you're back? And also, you touched on the fact that you slept in your car. Can you elaborate what that experience was like for you? And what made you just keep going even after all of that?
So for the family, all my family is still here. They're all from the area here. So they were ecstatic about me coming back. And, I haven't had a chance to really, you miss a lot of family functions, when you're away, which is good. My grandparents are still here. They're still alive. So I get a chance to continue to spend time with them and my mom and my aunt and uncles. My wife, she lives in the area, but she's from the Bay Area. And so she works, her firm is here located in the Washington, D.C. area. So it's always good to just kind of come back full circle with that. In terms of the homeless question or, sleeping in the car, again, it's what you're willing to, not what you're willing to give up, but it's what you're willing to do. And so it was tough, but there was an ultimate goal of getting to the highest level at that particular time. And, when you're a young person and you're single and you're not married, you have a mindset that no one can outwork you. You don't have a wife or a kid to go home to. And so when I was younger and growing up in the profession and, after going through the challenges and different things that you've gone through, you have to pay your dues. And when no one tells you what those dues look like. But when you're out there and you want something that you want to accomplish, what's holding you back. You got to choose your hard. So it's either the hards of failures or the hards of success. You can be hard and, I'm sleeping in my car and it's hard, or, I can have it the easy way. Right now I got to face the hard of how do I handle success, if it comes too early. And so you got to pick your battles and understand that, you trust in God and you pray and he will never lead you astray. So that's what I did.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I love he puts his faith in the Lord, man. I love the fact he puts his faith in the Lord. I love the fact that he talked about his hardships, man. And it's a beautiful thing to see a guy like that go through what he went through, and he's there where he is today. Let's
So-
see what David Blough's talking about now.
How surprised you to be sitting in this role? You flash back to like November. It's kind of a quick rise to get to this spot. What do you think?
Sure. I think, I don't know, surprised. You feel like every step along the way you prepare for these opportunities, and surprised may not be the exact feeling. It might be grateful, incredibly encouraged and motivated based on, what I've kind of seen over the past month of DQ's belief and building me up, man. From the first day I got here, I have felt a very specific development plan for me, whether it's getting to call plays and practice at different points along the way, whether it's getting to present in front of the team opportunities like that. So, I don't know if surprised is the right word, but incredibly grateful and thankful to be here.
See, you were a coach for 2 years, but you have the playing experience. So how much did playing in the different offenses and just playing quarterback in the NFL prepare you to be in this spot at this point?
Sure. I think I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of great coaches, every step of the way, whether it was high school, whether it was college, whether it was in the NFL, a lot of the men that I've looked up to in my life have been fantastic coaches, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a connector, whether it's a developer. And so, once I got to the NFL level as a player, that flame was kind of lit for me that I wanted to be the guy, as close as you can to calling a play in the huddle, getting to call the plays into the quarterback is the next closest thing as one of the play callers. So I've always had aspirations for this and really excited to get it going.
I know you've said that you sort of always wanted to be a coach after your playing days. Was play calling a piece that was always really important to you? And, when did it become a...
Oh, that's a great question. I've just seen the difference it can make. I've seen the difference at different stops in my career of getting to see different styles, different play callers, different innovators. And it's really important, when you're creating a game plan, when you're developing players, putting them in the best position to succeed, that, how important the play calling role is. So kind of like I mentioned for John, like it's as close as you can get to calling the play in the huddle and actually being the guy receiving the snap, and now developing that and helping get our group to the best collective outcome is what really excites me.
Then having, like you said, been with so many coaches, how do you envision your offense, and how much will you take from them as you sort of build this out?
I think every step along the way, I've gotten to learn something. And as we go forward, our staff, our collective staff of 12 or 13 coaches, we get to kind of build it up from the studs around what Jaden and Terry and Laramie and all these guys do really well to, put them in the best position to be successful. And that's what's exciting with our staff, even pulling from all these different experiences, new coaches coming in who have, backed up Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, and coaches who have been around Drew Brees and developed young quarterbacks, and being able to pull the collective so that we can all collaborate together and make this the best possible thing is what's really stimulating right now.
Hey, Coach. One thing Dan mentioned was that he anticipates Jaden will be under center a little bit more next year. I wonder why you thought that was important going forward.
Yeah, I think, it opens up, right, the, some different schemes in the run game, some things that I believe in. It opens up different play actions and keepers and getting them on the perimeter in different ways. I think there's a level of communication that happens under center. I think there's different ways to go about things, and it's something that I'm convicted about, that with his skill set, his fundamentals, the things that we absolutely loved about him when he first got here still ring true. And as we grow and develop, I think a lot of teams that you saw even playing deep into the playoffs, it was something that was a foundation of what they did. And I think, that is something that we will like to implement with him and get him in that position.
You've been credited with calling the shot to Crowder to beat the Eagles in 24. And I just wonder whether it was the obvious film work you did, the study you did, the personnel you knew, understood, time, score, everything that led you to believe that shot can work.
Sure. There's so much that goes into one play of say you get 65 plays in a game. And that was a situation that I had been a part of previously in a different organization, that a play that I had strong conviction about in April of that year, in May and June. There were different experiences for Jaden along the way that, he didn't read it exactly how we taught it the first time. Then he learned from it the second time. Then it came up a different way in practice that week. And then, the practice execution became the game reality from that week. And he has a really he's got a gift. When you teach him something the first time, it just absorbs in there. So, I wouldn't say that was just me or any part of that. There's a whole collective group that goes into kind of creating one play that comes up on a Sunday, Thursday, Monday, so.
Coach, you've obviously worked with Jaden since he got here, and you guys have a pretty tight-knit relationship. How would you describe your connection with him that you've built over the last 2 years, and what was his reaction when you got this role?
Yeah, I think, that's one of the best parts for me, is that we have 2 years worth of relationships already built up. There's already deposits in that bank that, we can pull from. If we're talking about, hey, what does he do well? What are we building now? A lot of those conversations have been had over the last 2 years. So it's not starting exactly from square one. And I think as much as we can, we're going to keep some continuity of the way he's called things. And then, we got to build on it. And I'm really excited to, just continue to challenge him, pull the best out of what he does and help him grow. Because, we all know as he goes, this group will go, and it's really an exciting challenge and opportunity to just get him to his best.
And you mentioned taking a lot from all the coaches that you've worked with, and you've already discussed having more under center, some things that are going to deviate from what this offense has been like the past 2 years. Sure. What's the biggest thing that you learned from working with Cliff Kingsbury?
I think it's hard to ignore how much stress, no huddle, the tempo element puts on a defense. And Cliff was incredibly gracious to me, just allowing me into his brain of how he thinks, how he sees the game, and what he has seen work. And so the last 2 years were incredibly valuable for me to see.
I like the way he said that he has a conviction of playing under center. I like the fact he learned from Cliff and learned to no huddle. I think we should still implement that to our offense. I think that puts the stress on a lot of defenses, bro. When they can't substitute, they're tired, they're drained. You gotta go out there and make another snap. Man, it's huge. I'm gonna need to hear the whole David Blough press conference, because I can deduce what you wanted to say there. But my quick reaction, if I get up out of here, is Daronte is a heck of a man. He's a heck of a coach. He's a man I respect. I think he's a man that these players will respect. He will command respect, and I think he will earn that respect because of what he's been through and the things he has endured to get here today. And as for David Blough, I think he'll take a little bit from Cliff. He'll take a little bit from Kevin O'Connell. I also think he'll take some from Ben Johnson, put his spin on it, and I think he will have an elite offense this year. I really think David Blough is going to have one of the best offenses in the NFL this year. I truly believe that. When you learn from guys like that, you're a young, innovative offensive mind like Blough is, and you got a quad like Jaden Daniels, you got a wide receiver one like Terry McLaurin, sky's the limit for you, bro. And I think he's going to take this offense to a new level. And I truly believe that he will make this deep offense more balanced. I think Bill's going to have a huge year next year. I think the running back that he will team up with will have a huge year as well, because I truly believe that we're going to run the ball more, especially on the center, and use these players to the best of their ability. And I think Terry McLaurin will have a career season next year. Yardage-wise, I don't know about touchdown. I don't think he'll get 13 touchdowns. It's hard to do year after year, but I do think he'll have an incredible season next year. But yeah, that's going to do for tonight's live reaction to Daronte Jones and David Blough. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Over to 8,000 subscribers. Hit the subscribe button, like button, share button. Have a good one, and I'll catch y'all next one, man. Peace.